You have Vivek Ramaswamy, who seems to be fading.
We know in businesses and in politics, when things get tight, say goodbye to the advertising.
He will tell you that it just hasn't been effective, so he's taking everything off the airwaves, but it's probably something more to it.
Vivek Ramaswamy has lost all momentum.
The best thing about January is it may be the last month we actually have to deal with Vivek Ramaswamy.
The left-wing media hyperventilating, frothing at the mouth at the idea of Vivek's demise. The man igniting all this wild speculation joins us now from the campaign trail in Iowa, Vivek Ramaswamy. So let's get this cleared up right out the gate, Vivek. Yep. Does the liberal media have a reason to be this excited?
No, they don't. Sorry to disappoint him. Actually, I'm not sorry to disappoint him. I'm actually thrilled to disappoint them. We're going this to the very end. I expect we're going to be successful. But, Pete, the thing about me is unlike other candidates, I've been a businessman. I've run businesses before. I understand when something actually makes sense and when it doesn't. So when advertising rates are spiking for everybody else, you've got $200 million, close to that, been spent by the campaigns and their super PACs on TV ads. That's not the place to spend it. Instead, we're going grassroots, bottom up. I've done the full Grassley. I've done more stops in Iowa than probably many of the other candidates combined. And we're doubling and tripling down on our spending in a much more targeted way that's going to deliver, you mark my words on this, a surprise at the Iowa caucus on January 15th. I think we're going to shock the world, actually. And so I'm running this campaign in the same way that I would run a company, with an actual IQ and an actual brain, not taken for a ride by political consultants. And I think that's going to lead us to ultimately success here.
Vivek, can you hang a number on what shock the world means? I mean, I've heard you say that before. Iowa's going to be a big surprise in your mind. Yeah. What does that mean?
I love where we're sitting right now, Pete, where the mainstream media has got our expectations low, hanging me in fourth place. I think if you take where the mainstream media's polling narrative is, of having me just in the high single digits in Iowa, we're going to shatter that. And I'm going to leave the rest to January 15th. I think we have a good shot at winning the Iowa caucus. And if you look at the poll numbers right now, I know that would tell a different story. But it's because many of our supporters in this campaign, they're not polled. These are younger people, people who have not traditionally participated in the caucus, but who are inspired by a leader from the different generation, from the next generation, with an actual vision of what it means to be an American, not just criticizing Biden. That's old. That's tired. That's yesterday. But to stand for actually our own alternative vision. That's something that's bringing new people into this movement. A good clue on that, Pete, is this, is 40% of our donors are first-time ever donors to the GOP. That number is 2% for other Republican candidates. So that gives you a sense for how different this campaign is. That's what we're going to need to win the general election in a landslide, which I'm confident I'll deliver. And that's going to start with a major surprise in Iowa on January 15th. And I think being a businessman coming in from the outside to this world of politics has helped me call the bluff on a little bit of what these standard political consultants do. It's like an assembly line. They just put candidates on. I'm not going to be on somebody else's assembly line. We're making independent decisions. And I think we're going to get the dues paying off for that on January 15th.
But the big one looming in the background, which everyone knows, is the overwhelming frontrunner of Donald Trump, who remains polling ahead in Iowa. And Vivek, earlier today, we saw Michigan reject an attempt to remove Trump from the ballot there. Now, you've made some waves recently when you announced plans to remove yourself from Colorado's ballot following that ruling. And you urged your fellow GOP competitors to do the same. But it appears they're not game for that. Governor DeSantis said it was, quote, just playing into the left's hands and refused to join you. What do you make of the governor's point? You've repeatedly sort of stood behind the targeting of Trump when they have not. Would you remove yourself from every ballot that Trump's disqualified from, should this trend continue?
I think this is blatant election interference in the GOP primary by the left. And I think one way Republicans can protect ourselves, and that's why I've led the way in doing it, is by saying that any state that removes Donald Trump from the ballot, none of us should be on the ballot, because that then takes states like Colorado out of the GOP primary, which actually stops them from engaging in this kind of election interference. So, Pete, I'm a problem solver. If there's a problem presented to us, I believe in solving the problem. I also believe in being a leader and not letting others lead the way if I'm going to be a follower. I'm sad to see that DeSantis and Haley and Chris Christie haven't followed that. They're focused on collecting some microscopic number of delegates instead of standing for the actual integrity of our election. But my job isn't to manage them. I'm going to lead this country with the same integrity I'm leading this campaign. We got to be guided by principle, not short-term political interest. And in the long run, I actually think that is going to be the winning strategy. And I think next year there's going to be a lot of unexpected things that play out in 2024. If you follow where this road ends, my concern is they're not going to let certain candidates like Donald Trump get to the finish line. And I think it's really important that we play ahead of the curve to understand and not fall into the traps that the other side is laying for us. So I'm going to do my part to stand for the integrity of this GOP primary. But at the same time, we need an America First candidate to lead us to the next level. I believe I'm that candidate. It's going to take somebody from the next generation to do this with fresh legs, and I'm ready to lead the way.
Well, Vivek, you're raising expectations in Iowa, and you've disappointed all of the left-wing media, especially Kristen Welker tonight. Vivek, thank you.